And the question today, from the number one question today from all the girls in Southern California is, Mr. Chapman, welcome to the show. Who funds the IMF?
Well, thank you for the welcome. And nobody runs the IMF right now because its leader is in jail. And he has been accused, as you well know, of a number of different crimes. And so in the meantime, he's the deputy director, Mr. Lipsky, formerly of J.P. Morgan Chase, is in charge. Historically, that position has been held by a European, and the Europeans, of course, want to keep it that way, even though they really don't control anything. All the control is on Wall Street. The IMF was set up as a looting operation, and that's where Mr. Strauss-Kahn get into problems with those in New York. And he wanted to make it into a more humanitarian operation by relieving people of some of their debt and not imposing such austerity, which has never worked, and not allowing Wall Street and their counterparts in Europe to go in and buy out the utilities and waterways and goodness knows what for 10 cents on the dollar. It's been a looting operation since World War II. And so I think that Mr. Strauss-Kahn got himself into real trouble, even though he is a high-ranking member of what is known as the Illuminati. And he had to be pushed out of his job. He also wanted to use the SDR as a new world currency. And the people in Wall Street don't want that. They want to continue with the dollar, probably after this revaluing and devaluing in multilateral default. And then they'll probably back the dollar with gold again. I don't think they got the gold, so they'll have to borrow it from somebody. But that's the way I think this is going to head, and that's why he was taken out of his position. I think he is innocent of the charges, knowing how these people operate. I think J.P. Morgan was the one who was behind all this. And a man who's a billionaire, an economist, a financier, a professor, doesn't go around trying to do the kind of things he's accused of to Ugandan Muslim women. I mean, he's paying $3,000 a night for a suite. He could probably easily get a hooker for $1,000. And so I don't believe that story one bit. And I think he was taken down to get him out of the way. And it'll be interesting to see whether he's found guilty. And I don't think so.
And where do we go from here, Mr. Chapman?
Well, I think the IMF and the Eurozone countries and all of the EU have serious problems with their debtor nations who are part of their groups. And it's not going to go away. It cannot be financed. It's $4 trillion. I said that a year and a half ago. Nobody was listening. Now, they did allocate among the affluent and semi-affluent members almost $1 trillion to bail these people out. Well, it's not going to work. It's not enough money. You go to the other end, if they were to get 2 or 3 or 4 trillion, the donators would go bankrupt. The solvent countries would go under. There's no place for them to go. There is no recovery. There cannot be. There must be default, and the banks don't want to take the losses. Sovereign nations don't want to take them either, that are holding Greek, Portuguese, Irish, Spanish, Belgian, and Italian paper. But they'll have to. And the bank should have made the loans in the first place. They knew what they were doing. They're the professionals. They made the money up out of thin air. They're responsible. They should take those losses. And if they go bankrupt, that's tough. In fact, some of them should be tried and put in jail for what they've done. And so I think that's the way it's going to all shake out. Could take another couple of years. But they're not going to get away with trying to sweep it under the rug. It just isn't going to happen. And so the leader of the IMF isn't there to help. And he would have made a difference. He was a very conciliatory person. And I think what's going to happen is they'll all go in default. The euro will cease eventually to be. They go back to the national currencies. And the EU may even break up, which I think would be wonderful. It's an unnatural association. There is some more fallout from the charges and incarceration of Mr. Strauss-Kahn, and that is he was leading in the polls to be president of France, and I'm sure that might have had something to do with what went down. And Sarkozy, who's the president, did not have good ratings, which is generally rather surprising. And the candidate for the National Party, National Front, Marine Le Pen, I've known her since she was a teenager, and her father is a very good friend of mine. He ran for the presidency and got 19% of the vote and got slaughtered, actually. But the world's a different place right now than it was 15 years ago. And I think Marina's credentials are very strong, and she could move up to 30%. And the socialists are going to run Mrs. Legrand, and I think they could all come in between 30 and 35%. And the top two will run off. Now, whether Marina has that kind of strength in France remains to be seen. But we won't know until we get there. But I'd love to see her as president. She's a very bright person, and she has a law degree. Her specialty is criminal law, although she spent almost her entire adult life in what we would call the House of Representatives. And she lives in northwest France. I call it Normandy. The family originally came from there. And anyway, they're a very, very strong family. And so this has changed things that you don't know about. And that's what I'm here for, to tell you all these little things that you'd never hear. I mean, what is the chances of me knowing Marina Le Pen from the time she was 18? Zero. But that's a part of my life. In fact, Jean-Marie said to me, if I make it as president, I want you to come to France and run the finance of the country.
I heard that.
And that's true. But I'm sure Marina's forgotten me after all these years. I'm old enough to be a grandfather, or at least her father.
You might
be surprised. Her dad is 7 years older than me.
You might be surprised, Mr. Chapman. You might be surprised. I got a question here. Ask Mr. Chapman if he thinks the QE3 is inevitable, and if so, how long does he think the dollar will be able to hold its value?
Well, first of all, I predicted QE3 last May 15th. That was a year ago. And now everybody's catching up, which is normal. They can't see the forest but through the trees, or whatever that phrase is. Yes, they won't call it that, though. They'll have another name for it. And I don't know what that'll be, but if they don't have a QE-type situation, number 3, the economy of the country will collapse. And you don't have to be any kind of a genius to figure that out. So they're going to do it. And inflation will go up in 2 years from now when QE3 is thundering down the pass. Inflation will be 50%, which is hyperinflation. And that's just the way it is. And as I said, if they stop, which they will eventually, there'll be a collapse. And so it's not anything to look forward to. And, I see all of these brush fire wars going on, and they're going to blame their problems on that. Who knows who's next? And it's a very putrid kettle of fish.
Mr. Chapman, Lisa from Seattle comes in with a question. She says, Mr. Chapman, I noticed that the United States government is raiding the Civil Service Pension Fund, and that the United States is now 14.3 on the debt limit, according to the news on Monday. Mr. Geithner has come forth and saying that he's raided the pension funds to basically save America from default and give some breathing room to August the 2nd, giving the Senate and the Congress a chance to increase the money supply or whatever. What do you feel is really going behind the scenes, and what does this mean when they raid the pension fund?
Well, Congress is not going to allocate any money for a bailout, so that's out. So that means that the Fed would have to do it on all. Now, what's happening is that the Treasury is saying, no, we're going to steal the money from the funds that are supposed to be going into those retirement plans. Then they'll never replace it, believe me. And the next thing on the agenda is to go after the $6 trillion in the 401ks and the IRAs. And I can promise you, sooner or later, they're going to go after them. So if you got them, get out of them. Put your investments in your safe or in a personal account in a brokerage firm or whatever. Anybody that wants help in doing that, just let me know. I'll help you. We don't charge for anything except for publication. And that's the way I think they're going to go on this. And they figure that can buy them a number of years, maybe 3 or 4 years. And that's how I think they're looking at it. Of course, everybody will get either U.S. government bonds or a guarantee from the government that they'll get retirement. The problem is inflation will be over 50%, and no matter what they allocate, half the buying power will be gone. So that's why you don't want to be in them anymore. And don't tell me that you don't want to pay the taxes. You're going to have to pay them sooner or later, whether you're dead or alive.